Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Josiah Blizzard, and I am going to take you behind the scenes at another wedding. This time, I was a second photographer for my good friend, Laura Lee Photography, and she brought me along on her wedding, and I decided to film the whole thing for you guys. So this episode is actually all about how to become a great second photographer and how to help your main photographer get the best images possible. Alright, so we are at Mary Beth and Andrew's wedding day down in Avalon, New Jersey, and I am at the groom right now. If you're a second photographer, you're going to find that you are not going to show up to the bride very often. Most likely you're going to go with the groom, and I always start out shooting details, whether that means I'm with the bride or if I'm with the groom. Start out shooting details, get his shoes, bow tie, cufflinks, pocket square, all of that good stuff, and kind of ease into the day. Don't invade their space. At the beginning, just start shooting the details and kind of get out of their hair, let them get used to the fact that there's a camera there, because guys typically hate having their photo taken, and that's why I'm just kind of shooting around. We're getting candids. I'm not telling them to do anything really in particular, and thankfully these guys were pretty goofy, so I felt the need like I could just kind of hang out, goof around with them, and capture some things. But you should always offer to help too. You can see he actually drops his button here, and I go to pick it up in a moment, but I moved him over to these windows because he was back in the kitchen and the light was pretty ugly. So always look for that window light, that clean light, clean backgrounds. As long as you have good light, you can get some good photos, regardless of what the background looks like. In most cases, I guess, but
just don't look like you're
keep the conversation going as well. They are typically uncomfortable having their photo taken. All the conversation helps. Conversation helps kind of ease them into having a camera in their face. So
You should become a tailor.
keep it light, keep it fun,
It's a good calling for you.
and just capture what's happening. I'm shooting on a 35mm and an 85mm on the A7 III from Sony. I'll be switching back and forth between both of these lenses, but today I'll primarily be on the 35. Again, I moved Andrew over to this chair in front of this large window, tying his shoes, opening his gift in a minute, and he's not really sure where to look. He's not sure if he should look at me or if he should just tie his shoes. So I told him, he can just ignore me and do what he needs to do. But he was cheesing, he was smiling the whole time. So just have fun, treat them like they're your clients. You might be a second photographer who is only second shooting for portfolio reasons. If that's you, I really encourage you to stop doing that, and you need to come on board as a second photographer and treat them as if they are your clients and that you are shooting for them and not for yourself. You can't just get the images you want. You got to get the images that the couple wants and that your main photographer wants as well. I didn't get to shoot the watch that he just got as a gift from the bride, so I'm shooting that now on his wrist, and I shot the box on the floor there just to make sure I got those details. Something else to do is always get a shot list from the main photographer. One of those is always being the interaction between the groom and dad. This was actually the bride's father, but it looks like they're pretty close, so get some important details too, like the pocket square was actually made out of his mother's wedding dress. The other thing I'm doing, guys, is I'm editing all of these photos with my preset ice, and I'm gonna release these presets pretty soon for you guys. I am working on a big project coming up, and I would love for your support in it, but I will announce that at a later date, but I'm very excited to share that with you. So now we're at the first look, and you can see there's a whole crowd of photographers and videographers with us now. I'm still on the 35mm, and I've already talked with my main photographer, Laura, about what lenses I should be on, where I should stand. I'm just backing her. You can see I'm all the way on the other side of her. I'm not shooting directly behind her. I'm not stepping on her toes.
I'm Josiah.
Mary Beth, nice to meet you.
Congrats, you look amazing.
Introduce myself to the bride as quick as I can, whether that's at the first look or at the ceremony. Obviously do it at an appropriate time. I did not want to interrupt them during their first look, so I did it afterwards when we had a little bit of a break. Introduce yourself as fast as possible, and give her a compliment. It'll go a long way. The other thing to be aware of is to not always be right on top of the main photographer. They might be shooting from the best angle possible, but there are always other angles to get other shots. Don't be right on top of them. You should, like, if they back up, you should not be getting bumped into. If that is the case, you are too close and you need to find a new angle. I'm also shooting on a 35. I knew that Laura was shooting on a 70 to 200 and a 50 millimeter, so a 35 was a good bet for me, that I was getting wider shots than what she was getting. I also switched to an 85, and I'm shooting wide open at 1.4 and 1.8 on both of those lenses. As a second photographer, you might be asked to fix the veil or hold the dress. That normally would have been my job, but we had another person there to fix the dress and hold the veil. However, I did go to the car to get an umbrella for her. I want to be a blessing and not a burden to both the main photographer and the couple. So if the main photographer asks you to run to her car and get her an umbrella or get her a bag, you definitely do so. My entire job is, one, to get great images for the bride and groom, but two is to make my main photographer's life way easier.
Andrew, can I just have you kind of lean, maybe not lean it back against it, but get close enough? And I want you to just kind of, you're just gonna walk and fit right in like a puzzle piece into him, okay? And I want you, when you do that, just bring your noses together, okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense? And focus on her, all right?
You're too cool, Andrew.
All right, go ahead. You can wrap her up when she gets to you.
I don't ever direct the bride and groom on the wedding day as a second photographer unless I've been asked to. Laura specifically asked if there was anything that I wanted to do with them, and so I took one pose, made it really easy for them. Didn't want to be stiff and do a pose, so I just asked her to kind of fit into Andrew as best she could. You can see I'm shooting with two lenses. My 85's up and my 35 is up as well, shooting with both cameras in both hands at the same time.
Mary Beth, can I have you look right over at me here? Andrew, nuzzle in a bit, bring your nose right to her temple there. And Andrew, I want you to whisper in her ear. I want you to speak French, okay? As best as you can. You might not know how, but...
Here's another scenario of where she asked if there was anything that I wanted to do with them. So I gave them,
Mary Beth,
put them in a pose, and I gave them a prompt just to get them laughing and having fun with each other.
One more time. Mary Beth, I just want you to look down towards your shoulder there.
Oh my gosh. Woo. Oh, how it goes. And Vivian, 3, 2, 1.
So portraits go on for quite a while. We scheduled, I think, about an hour of time for portraits with them. She trusted me, thankfully enough, to shoot just portraits by myself of the groom. If you are a first time or inexperienced second photographer, don't be offended if you're not asked or trusted to photograph key portraits like this on the wedding day. It takes time to build up your portfolio, build up confidence, and have a main photographer trust you. Thankfully, I've known Laura for a few years, and I shoot weddings primarily on my own with my wife, and I think I can handle a few portraits by myself. So for the sake of time, she allowed me to take portraits of the groom and of the groomsmen. So if you're a second photographer, you will be asked to do that from time to time. Again, make sure that you are shooting portraits for the couple and for the main photographer, and not for yourself or for your portfolio. You're there for them, not for you. I'm also shooting from the side on an 85 now because I knew Laura was on a 24 getting wides of the entire bridal party. I wanted to make sure that I was getting close-ups and tighter shots of the bridal party members, getting those close-up candid portraits, focusing on just a few people rather than the entire party. We had a few combinations that we had to get through. Laura gave me a list of, these are Mary Beth's brothers, those are some college friends, and just making sure that you get all the different combinations possible, and helping the main photographer get those combinations is super important. Here we are at one of the smallest churches I've ever been in. There was no side aisles, so we were kind of stuck to the balcony where I am and the front of the ceremony space. Always look for candids in ceremonies as well. So I kind of hung out in the back and then crept up to the front for the kiss. I knew I wasn't going to get anything good in the back, so I kind of knelt down next to Laura, still staying out of her way and getting the shots I needed. Just a backup for the kiss in case, I don't know, maybe Laura's camera could malfunction or whatever at that time. Wanted to make sure I was backing her up for that kiss shot. And I immediately get out of Laura's way. She's going to get the recessional and then I can get some shots from the back of the church as they get a little bit closer to me. Something you notice though, I'm always behind Laura. I don't ever want to be in her way or in her shot, so I'm always behind her. I follow the bride and groom outside of the church to get these awesome candids. This is one of the best things you could do on the wedding day, I think, is follow the bride and groom out of the church and capture their bridal party, their friends, their family, giving them hugs right after the ceremony, after they've just been married, pronounced husband and wife. One of the best things you can do when they say that they really love the candid look and they want candids on their wedding day, these are those candids that they're talking about. So always follow them wherever they go after the ceremony and get those family and friends reactions to them being married. Plus then you can get them out of the way of guests, and they don't get bombarded with guests talking to them and taking photos with them and all that stuff, because we normally have family photos to do right afterwards. Skipping over family though, we went right to the reception. And I'm just shooting some details here. Laura is actually dumping some photos onto her computer, so I figured I would take some detail photos. I have a different eye than her, so I might be seeing things a little bit differently, and I'm sure that she captured details on her own, but she can use what I got too if she really feels like it, and if not, I have some really great detail shots. This reception was really, really beautiful, mainly because of the window light coming through. I didn't have to set up any flashes or anything like that. Then I went and I shot some cocktail hour photos. I try not to shoot people eating, but people smiling and having fun and talking with one another. People shoving food in their mouth, you guessed it, doesn't make for some great photos, but talking, hugs, all that good stuff is really what I'm looking for. You can see a flash stand in the back left here, and I have another flash stand behind me that is, you know, shooting for the bride and groom. Laura did on-camera flash and one off. I'm doing both off camera because I like having the mobility, the freedom to kind of move around wherever I want to go and get some shots without my light changing all that much. You can see I moved behind these people here to get those shots, and I couldn't do that if I had on-camera flash. I did the same for this toast section, and during the rest of the reception, really, I kind of stayed off camera. I have a flash to my left and a flash to my right. I would have normally put a flash on the other side of the room right across from me, but there was no room to put flash over there. And I'm on a 70-200, making sure I get some close-ups, some tight shots of the toasters, and I got a few shots of the bride and groom. Biggest thing, get those hugs after the toasts. The best candids you could get during the toasts. Hey, here's what I'm using for off-camera flash. I actually mounted a friction arm to his stand, and I mounted my flash to that friction arm. This saves room on the floor. You can see one is mine, one is Laura's, and then there's another stand on the right that is also mine. So save some room on the floor, go get a friction arm. They're like 15 bucks on Amazon. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and maybe if you're feeling generous, hit that like button as well, and maybe share with a friend who might find this content valuable. I want to know, what was your biggest takeaway from this video? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what your biggest takeaways are. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.